All right, let's start. Sarah, everything is up to date with taxes?
Yes.
All right, the order will be number 1 will be 3 Dow's Lane. That's 2020-11. Number 2, Demcheck 7-9 South Continent Street, 2020-12. Number 3 is 47 Main, 2019-26. And number 4 is 2 Heritage Hill Road, 2020-06. All right, number 1 is 3 Dow's Lane.
I have to recuse myself. Where I live borders the property. Dan McCullough got here.
Okay, is the applicant here for 3 Dow's Lane?
John?
John, you've got to unmute. Okay, there you go, John.
Hey guys.
John, are you the representing the applicant for 3 Dow's Lane?
I am. This is John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, representing Larry Sheps, 3 Dow's Lane. The remaining comments that we have for the project relate to variance requirements for the proposed second floor deck. That was item 1 and 2 in Han's memorandum, and then I guess the remaining, there's 1 comment from the village engineer. I don't know what you guys want to, not the village engineer, there's 1 comment from the landscape architect about a tree. We're not quite sure what vegetation she's talking about. I can talk to Suzanne offline, but if there's anything that she needs to be protected, we'll gladly protect it. I don't know if you guys know who the client is. It's Larry Sheps is a landscape installer and designer, and he's.
If you will, right off the patio, if you're looking straight at the plans, the upper left hand, right off the patio, there's a tree or a shrub there.
Okay.
And we're not sure whether it's a tree or a shrub. If somebody can put Doug, you can put the plan up.
Okay, I'll put the plan up. Okay. Hold on 1 sec. Okay, so I think, let me just make sure, hold on.
Get the site plan.
Sorry guys, 1 second.
All right, waited long enough for me to get the audio.
Oh,
Yes, on that one.
right, this one on the site plan. Okay, I'm not.
Right there,
I think that is a dogwood. That might be.
Well, that's the one that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
that. I'm not sure that's as substantial as what's indicated here. I know this is a new survey.
Well, whatever it is, just put. Hey, John, just for ease of getting moving, just agree to put tree protection around that.
Yes, whatever's there, we will protect. That was what I meant to say there.
Okay. Now the other question I had there might be some FAR info that might be missing. Ed, do you know what we were discussing on FAR? Do they have all the information you need for FAR calculation?
Yeah, I believe we have everything.
That wasn't an issue on this one.
FAR is not an issue because he's leaving 400 square feet in the garage. It's coverage and it's side yard setback.
Yep.
John, you need to correct your zoning tables to reflect that, because it's not a pre-existing condition. Because the patios,
See, I'm
the
sorry.
patio can be 4 feet to the property line, but the deck has to be the full setback.
Are all the calculations correct for FAR and coverage?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So other than the tree and some engineering questions, Doug, you got any engineering questions that need to go?
No, I got nothing.
So this conceivably, I mean, there's a variance needed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Two variances.
All right, so without anybody else, anybody from the public, if any public is listening, have any comment on this?
They need to raise their hand.
Raise your hand, yeah, so we could see it. And anybody on the panel,
No, I don't have a comment. I just wanted to add, on the number 3 where it says the applicant must schedule an interior inspection with the building department. I thought you said something about they had to schedule an inspection with the fire inspector. Am I right?
Yeah, that's for the renewal. He needs that,
For the special permit
the
renewal.
special permit part. He can do that, he can do that anytime.
It's not on there, John, but when you come back to the next meeting, those things should be done so the resolution can include this special permit renewal as well.
So, but Marianne, just to be clear, there needs to be both a building department inspection of the existing condition and a fire department inspection of the existing condition?
That's
Two
a
separate
question.
ones?
John, a condition of the permit is an annual inspection, which he hasn't done, and his permit is expired. So he needs to call for an annual inspection from the fire inspector.
Okay,
We can help him with that in the morning, and he needs that done before he can go to the, before he comes back.
there's not also a building department inspection, and it's just the fire department thing that needs to be.
Yeah, it's assigned because of life safety to the fire department.
Okay,
So 3 is wrong. It should be fire inspector rather than building department.
got it. And then would we arrange that through your office, Ed, or through the fire department?
Give Nick a call. If you need the number, Sarah will give it to you tomorrow.
Great.
all right, so Ed, I think I heard you say the inspection by the fire department would not stop it from going to ZBA, but he needs to have that done before he comes back after the ZBA.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, any comment, George or Kevin?
So the two variances that he's requesting is for coverage and,
Setback.
Yeah, he's altering existing coverage, George.
right?
He's not increasing, he's not decreasing, he's altering existing
All right.
coverage.
Okay.
It's well
Dan,
screened from
you there?
the neighboring properties.
Oh, Dan is recused. Kevin, are you there? Kevin,
Yes, I'm here.
okay, you have any questions? I can't, obviously we can't see, so I have to ask in the affirmative. Do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, so this is safe, we can safely say this can go to the ZBA?
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
okay, John.
Thank you.
All right, we're done with that. Number 2 was Continent Street. Is the applicant on?
That's me again.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, no, it's not. Oh, yeah, it is. It's me. Nemchek, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, that's me. Okay, hold on. Let me just pull up. One sec.
Hey, John, bring up the yellow presentations of the new facilities, particularly the garage.
You say the visual impact study, Caesar? Is that where you're?
Yes,
Okay.
I think that where the garage is in yellow and the existing is in plain real color.
Okay, hold on one sec.
The two main issues is the garage and the tree. So let's do the garage first.
Okay. Okay. Are you guys seeing, I'm assuming you're seeing a very large 8.5 by 11 here. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Now come into the elevation view of the yellow.
Let me make this a little bit more manageable. So these are the various visual impacts views.
Oh, there we go. Bring up the one on the bottom there.
Okay. Can everyone see that? Oh, wait.
Make it
you wanted
bigger.
the previous one.
Make the one on the bottom that I'm looking at bigger.
Okay.
Make it from the street view, that view, but bigger.
Okay.
I think you had one a few pages after. Maybe that was closer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Another one
next-
that's
the
looking
next slide-
down,
the next
down the
slide.
sidewalk,
okay. Hold on one second.
looking down the sidewalk.
Looking down the sidewalk. Okay. Just
No,
stop me when you.
From in
That's it.
front of, that's that one.
There's one
That one.
after it also. There's one.
But I want to see that one. The one
Okay,
on
you
the
want to see
bottom.
this one?
That one, yeah, bring it up.
But just the bottom picture, not the comparison, John.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Is that good? Oops.
Can you make it bigger?
I can try. Okay. It might flip to the next page though, Susan. You got it?
You're getting bigger.
Yeah.
All right, it shows enough of what I want to see. Now, looking through the yellow and seeing the river, how can you explain that that's not a visual block to the river?
You're saying, I think what you're seeing there, you might be seeing a little bit of river. I'm not sure that's river though. Let me see.
Yeah,
It is.
if you blow it up bigger, it is.
I think there's a shot you have after that you can see it better.
Okay. The next one, you think?
That one right there. Yep.
Right. Okay. That. I mean, I can
You see
check.
the
we can-
horizontal,
You know, I see that. You can certainly see that's the line of the river valley beyond. I'm not sure that you're seeing water there, but
you're
Water,
blocking the view
all
of the river.
Palisades.
You're
Oh, you're
blocking the view of the water.
you're
and the
thinking that this
Palisades.
is actually view of river right in this area here, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're also blocking view from the 42 Main Street.
yeah, from the house to the east. If you were standing on the porch to the house to the east, you'd really be blocking it.
Right. You know, in the past, the visual impact studies that we were doing were always focused on public areas. They weren't focused on views from adjacent buildings because.
Well, the sidewalk is pretty public, and
Right,
I can't
that's
see.
why the focus is on that, Caesar. So I mean, if, you know, there's.
But that's not what the code says, John.
It says adjacent properties and rights of way.
You
And
know,
actually, if you don't mind, actually, a lot of the impact studies have been done from houses. And I think actually, John, your firm has done those as well, from their various properties.
Well,
Yeah.
typically,
Also-
we may have done them from in front of their properties or something like that, but I thought that we had, in any case, you guys are concerned about visual impact of.
Well, that's
of the
part of
garage.
it. The main one is by code, the garage cannot be closer to the curb than the existing building line.
Caesar, can I correct you on that,
Marianne,
please?
if I didn't say that correctly, somebody correct me, Ed or.
Yeah, Caesar, I'd like to correct it. So John, in our business district, it says that no parking or storage in between Main Street and the front of the building. So that's storage there and parking in the garage. So we're determining that as a encroachment into the front yard in the business district.
Okay, so our interpretation, just to be clear, the comment that we had in the memorandum referred to, are you guys seeing the code section that I brought up?
I see it, but it's hard to read.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, go to 22436G3.
Right.
Go down a little further.
So just to be clear, the comment we got was for E3, which doesn't exist, so we interpreted it as G3.
yes.
I would argue that I think the interpretation of 3 may be a little different, or the appropriate interpretation. What it refers to is parking spaces or vehicle storage areas shall not be
Well, a
situated.
garage is a vehicle storage area, isn't it?
I don't think it is, Caesar, and I think the spirit of these clauses in this, when this was put in place and with other municipalities, had more to do with protecting main streets against parking that happens in front of existing buildings, like in strip malls. So if you just hold on one second. This condition, if you guys can see this, right? This condition where you pull off the street in a business district and the building is set back and there's parking and circulation in front, the language of that code is really designed to protect against this condition. You know, in the business district, you can have a building right up to the front property line. There's no limitation in the building district. If this was a commercial building in this location, we would be putting it right up to the edge of the sidewalk. And
Well, actually, you wouldn't because you're blocking the view of the river, but that's besides the point. But go ahead.
right, right. If you're going to argue that there can be no impact at all on any street, you know, on any view, we can do that. But I don't think that this code, because specifically it doesn't reference garages and it references.
Well, I'm going to depend on our legal advice from Mary Ann. Mary Ann, what do you think about John's opinion?
Well, you know, it's not an argument I heard before. To me, a vehicle storage area would be a garage, but I think there's other reasons that the garage should be moved, and so that, I mean, we could argue that, but it's supposed to be located so as to cause the least obstruction of the view of the Hudson River, and this isn't located so as to cause the least obstruction. In fact, last time wherever you had it, it was further back. It did not obstruct the view of the river.
So one of the reasons we relocated it to this position was we thought that it would reduce the impact on the neighboring property. We can certainly put it back to the original position. We thought there was a concern about screening, like putting privacy screening between the proposed garage location and the building to the east. If that's, you know, we didn't have the benefit of having a meeting where we could talk this out last time. So we chose to make this change to try to mitigate what we thought was your concern about that original condition. We had talked to Suzanne about it and a few other things. But if you would rather us put it in the other position, we can do that.
Yes, and in terms of the distance from the property line, just as long as there's enough space to put some screening there. It doesn't have to be 20 feet. Just some amount of distance where you can put some screening, and that the front of the garage is behind the window to the building of the east, because I would think I wouldn't want to live there and look out my window and see the wall of the garage.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Yeah, okay.
Can you put the side plan up, John, so we can look at that rather than the strip mall?
Okay, hold on one sec.
I like the background, George.
Okay, so this is the proposed site plan.
But John, to hear your argument about the strip mall photo, which I applaud you for being so well prepared for this discussion. Isn't the parking that you're now putting in front of the garage, in essence, the same kind of as the spirit of what you're saying the zoning or the code states?
So the way the code is written, that turning areas and driveway access is not part of that. That can be in that situation as long as the parking area that you see back here, George, is behind the face of the building, right? They want to make sure that the parking and the vehicle storage doesn't happen here in between this face of the building and the sidewalk. That's my understanding of that. So here, this is a turning, you could argue that this is the back out turning maneuvering space, but this is also where you would potentially store cars. This is where you would bring in. So what it does is it moves that parking area away from the project. And just because we never had an initial conversation about this, right now, guys, this whole area back to the garage and this whole area is asphalt, right? So the goal of this project is to make a courtyard space that can be greened and can be used for a family with children, that has protection from Main Street and has some screening from Main Street, and that you don't have to bring driveway and impervious surface all the way back to the existing garage, which reduces the amount of green space that's associated with the house, right? So the positions that we're showing this garage is intended to correct, you know, one of the things that you're getting with this project is, you know, this project could potentially be a commercial development of much larger scale. And what we have is an owner here that wants to not only save a historic building and put a significant amount of money into renovating a historic building with 7-foot ceilings back to its original condition, but they're also looking to green a site and sort of fix this site as a residential site going into the future, like basically putting enough effort and capital into it that it fixes this site for the foreseeable future as a residential site. So there's a lot of impact benefit, both in terms of green and visual impact that's associated with that.
John, that sounds all great, okay, and I
Right.
appreciate the efforts that you and your client are interested in. But one thing that you're doing with that is you're talking about this from the inside out versus the outside in. And I think if I'm inferring what everyone else is kind of going through is that your visual impact studies also kind of reveal that as one is walking down to the train or one is walking through Main Street, they're now going to have to see a garage.
Right.
And so I would say that is not a benefit to the village.
So then what we had said earlier, again, we were thinking that the concern was more about getting it away from this property line to the east. We can put it back in that configuration. All I wanted to say that the goal and the reason that it was there originally has more to do with developing this green space and eliminating that. I think we had designs to go either way here. I think we may have pushed it towards this, thinking that this was a very high priority, you know, protecting this building from any development that we have and providing the ability to screen this building from this development. If that's, you know, if we can say the priority has more to do with the visual impact coming down Main Street, then we can relocate it back to where it was.
Well, I would
That
say
would
that,
be,
go ahead.
go ahead, George.
I would say is, you know, John, you just think of it, you know, yourself. The impact that you're proposing here is much more substantial for more people and more for the village than the side of a building that's at 42 Main Street.
Including, George, including the impact on the house next door. It may be
That's what he said,
impacting it a different way, but they're going out instead of looking at open space, looking at this garage when they look toward the river.
Right. And I personally think that the benefits for the village are not very good for either one of those, but I'll leave it to John to figure out a way that is more sympathetic for the village.
So what I just wanted to talk about that in the context of what also has benefit to the client, right? So the reason I think, you know, we could of course leave the garage where it is, and we could leave the amount of pavement that we had. I think that has a negative impact on the owner. I think it makes it very difficult for the owner to have any privacy from Main Street. You know, the existing garage position brings traffic very deep into the site, which would, you know, be atypical in the village, right? Usually when you had a garage at the corner, there might be access from another street or something like that. So I would just ask the board to take into their deliberation about this, the impact and the benefit that it would have to the owner, as well as, you know, the perceived issues that it may have with the adjacent building and Irvington. Because, you know, one of the things that we're doing here, this house is not well kept right now. And the fact that as you walk down Main Street, you are looking into what's effectively a parking area for a multifamily that has no screening from the sidewalk right now. Having some kind of screening at this line, I think, is very important and an improvement to the village. I just want to make sure that we don't go through a cycle in this review where the request is to simply not have any impact on this building to the east. That's all I'm worried about. this is a commercial building in the east. It's an office building. The impact is that of the building in the existing location would be to the lower windows of that commercial building. I don't want to be back here next month, putting the building back here and being asked to look for a different location for it. That's my concern about sort of digging in on this issue right now and sort of discussing it in more depth.
Right, but it's sort of to me, it's sort of, that's your prerogative. And unfortunately, it isn't, I would not commit to either one of them. I would say that I would try to suggest to you to find a way to keep the garage either in the location it's at, and then to work the landscaping to do all the things, the wonderful things you want to do for your client in another way, to be a little bit more creative about it. But I don't think that what you're proposing by saying, you know, it's either here or there, and you're just going to have to live with the impacts if we move it over here, it seems to be, you know, there must be another way. And if not, then I would be very interested in seeing what it is that there are alternatives to this, because you're just showing it's either this or that, and you're hearing that there's negativity towards both of those. So I think it's, you know, sharpen the pencil.
If we stay on that line, George and everybody else, just to be clear about it, if there's visual impact associated with this area, right, that you guys find unacceptable, there would be visual impact associated with the northern third of the site. Is that correct?
I'm saying that a garage, okay, if one was to build a house there, okay, that had an entrance towards on Main Street, that wasn't in a utilitarian garage. So as I'm walking down Main Street and I go past 42 Main Street, which is quite elegant building, commercial or not, and then I'm now affronted by a garage, as opposed to what's there now, which I would sort of disagree that it is so, this is going to be superior to what's there now. So again, I go back to that you're hearing that there's issues with how you're citing this, okay?
So George, on that one then, so you're saying if this building was potentially more substantial in this area and it was a residential building that was fronted forward and made more sense, that would potentially be a better condition than having like an accessory building in this location.
Yeah, look at your visual impact studies. As you're walking down the street, you're going past a row of buildings, and then you're going to be fronted to a garage on its side with cars in front of it, more than likely. Okay,
Right,
as
so-
it is now, there is asphalt that has a garage all the way at the end. So as I'm walking down, I don't see that. I am not trying to tell you that this property can't be developed. I'm just saying that the siting of what you're doing doesn't seem to be tremendously beneficial to the village. And
so the thing I just want to say, would it be, and there's other board members here, would it be reasonable for us to explore expanding this building where it's located or in the northern third of the site to make it more substantial and more like a Main Street building with more mass? Because that's different than what, Caesar, you were saying initially, where the value of that river view down the sidewalk is so great that we wouldn't want anything, including a commercial building, to be developed.
Yeah, I was getting back to that. You're still blocking the river view. I mean,
Right. So I want to take,
building with a front door on it doesn't change the blocking of the river view.
so I want to take those things off the table now that are going to not work. That's what I'm trying to get to here. So then if having a more substantial development in the northern third of this site is not something that the board will be happy with moving forward, then that limits the potential location of the construction to the southern 2/3 of the site, right? And because this is a historic building that is protected on the west side, right, and that the demolition of this building is, if not prohibited, it is discouraged, right, that relocating the main portion of the house, that effectively limits the garage location to basically the this area here. If it limits the potential garage location to this area here, right? And so our goal is to try to maximize the green portion of this lawn, right, or of this site. And the way that we would do that would be to try to, you know, this is basically the potential for the green portion of the site. And I just want to be clear that the reason we're choosing this area here in our first alternative, right, where we had located the building, was an attempt to maximize the green area that was associated with this and to limit the impervious surface coming in. Yeah, you know, if there's other options, and I know, George, you want us to look at other options, I just want to be clear, if we do look at other options, to me it looks like, you know, you could leave the building back where it is here, you could potentially move it forward slightly from where it is, and then you would have potentially lost space behind it, or you could leave it here. I think moving it closer to the existing building would be something that you could explore, but if you maintain the existing curb cut, which is the only one you have, you would potentially increase impervious surface to get to a building in this area. So if you put a building closer to the existing building, you would have more impervious and less green. So in my mind, this area here gets taken out of the equation for a freestanding building. So that leaves this swath here as the available location. So to come back to what our argument was for that existing position and looking at additional options, I would argue that we can look at this option, we can look at leaving it in the existing place, and we can look at moving it somewhere along this line, but I'm not seeing that there's other acceptable places on the site, and I just want to try to get some direction from the board so we don't go around in circles on it. Does that make sense to everyone? Is there something that
Leaving it where it is certainly okay. Sliding it forward a bit is you know, that's an option, that, as George pointed out. I'm not really happy with anything that close to Main Street, blocking the view to the river. It's just, you come down the street and you see this mess. I mean, in front of the line of the.
Yeah, can
I'd
I,
be hard put.
you
I'd
know
be
what,
hard put to accept anything that close to the curb.
yeah, let me just read the language from the code. It's absolutely clear on the view preservation that the planning board should make sure that review the proposal as to the best siting, dimensions, and configuration of principal and accessory structures so as to cause the least possible obstruction of the view of the Hudson River for neighboring properties and adjacent public and private rights of way. So, I mean, I really see it as a real view preservation problem, John, especially.
So Marion, just
wait, let me just
okay.
get to the end of the sentence. Especially since Irvington is really unique in having a main street that runs to the river. Most of them run parallel to the river.
Right.
It's very, and it's just, I really think this view preservation was copied from the one that I wrote for Hastings. And the intent was to, you know, prevent development like this.
Right. I mean, I think just the language that's used, the least possible, I am fine. This is actually what I'm trying to get to today, is some clarity that we are not going to be positioning a building in this zone where it has that impact that we identified. That's what I'm getting to, Marianne. The thing
I think you have to be clear about what I think Marianne is trying to bring up is that if I owned 42 Main Street and I had a window that I could now see the river from, and if you were to build this structure where you're proposing it, that would not be correct. Is that my understanding, Marianne?
Well, yeah, but I mean, no, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about the location in the current proposal. I mean, it's possible that something.
Marianne, what you mean if somebody came out of the front door of the building next door at 42, the building, any building in the location as shown in the yellow, the blockage of the view would be a lot more than what we see from the sidewalk.
Yeah, right, that's right. But I think George was asking is if the building was shifted back some, and then by shifting it back, it might block the part of the view from the house next door, would that mean you couldn't do it? Well, no, what you've got to do,
No, that's, I don't,
it's
you're
kind of,
correct there. I don't think
can
you
I
meant
just
that.
finish? It's, you kind of have to balance it, George. I mean, it doesn't say that there can't be any obstruction at all. You want to minimize the obstruction. And the point I was making when I started out was that the location almost on Main Street isn't even close to minimizing the obstruction.
Right. So there is some wiggle room for
There's
For
some
John.
wiggle room, yes.
because I'm just going by, we did another project, actually I think it was John's project, that they built their project, and then someone did something down the river from them, and we did a view preservation analysis saying that there wasn't going to be any impact, and there was, and they were very upset about it. So, and it was from their house looking out through their windows.
Mhm.
And so what I hear now is that isn't necessarily ironclad, so to speak.
Yes.
And I think what we want to do is, again, balance it, but I think we want to advocate for our clients' ability to develop their site so that they can use it in a best manner that they can use it with some benefit. And I think, you know, the least possible impact on views of the river would be to not plant a tree and not develop anything. So I don't think the intent of the code was that. It was the intent to bring into the siding of the building visual impact, right? And make sure that you've looked at other options, that the option that you chose has less impact than the option that has more impact. And that's what I want to set sort of the other line where there wouldn't be any benefit, or there would be such reduced benefit to the owner of moving it in such a way that it had no visual impact to anybody or any adjacent buildings, that it wouldn't be worth the development, first of all, and also that it would be sort of a taking and have a negative impact on the owner of the property. And that's the balancing act that we're happy to be part of. I don't want to go through a cycle of giving options that, you know, we don't want to show you guys an option that doesn't provide any benefit to the owner, right? We only want to show you options that provide a benefit to the owner, make sense given the amount of cost that would be associated with the phase 2, the garage portion of it. And we want to make sure that that's clear going in before we make any other changes. I think what I would like to propose is that we're going to come back with the option of the building here. We're going to address the screening. We had a conversation with Suzanne whether she thought screening was appropriate, given that there's an existing hedge that would be approximately 6 to 7 feet up the side of the building here. She felt that no additional screening would be necessary in this zone here. In my conversations with her. So Caesar, I just want to bring that up now. If we put this building back in this location, the screening that we would put here, basically the existing hedge that's there turns has the softening effect of putting the side of the building that we had there would be more green. Having a screen of more height there wouldn't necessarily be a benefit to this property. And moving this building further into the site doesn't have an impact to the owner. So,
Hey, John, I'd like to interrupt on that comment.
Yeah.
We did not hear that from Susan, so we are going to take that. Caesar was concerned that the screening was maintained by the owner of the property of the garage. So without hearing that from Susan directly, and that's not what we heard in a staff meeting.
Okay.
That would have to be in writing to continue that conversation.
Okay.
And
from this location here, right, if we put the garage back in this location here, I've heard that there's a concern about screening in this area, right? Potential screening of the building in this area, make sure there's room to provide screening there.
And
then
maintenance
I've
of the
heard
screening.
about the impact of this roof on the adjacent building and the views from the ground level of the adjacent commercial building, right? Is that what, are there any other concerns about this location that you guys could share with us now?
Anybody else? Kevin and
No, I have Dan speaking. I agree with George. Like if you're walking along Main Street, you're past 42 Main Street, and you see the garage, obviously, the proposed location would present problems viewing the Hudson and the adjacent areas. It's just too crowded at that point for that location. And again, as John, you said, you wanted to move it back towards the middle of the property somewhere and maximize the greenage.
Right. Okay.
I think that's, John, if you get from Suzanne what you said about the neighbors, I mean, normally we like to see the screening, not the neighbor's responsibility, but the owner's responsibility.
Okay.
And the location, siding it too far forward. I know you want to maximize the backyard, but you also don't want to, there's a window into the house to the east. I mean, consider that window. I know it's a commercial building, but that should be taken into consideration. To look out the window and you see a wall.
I think we're on the same page there. I just want to say that we'll consider it, but I think we're going to be balancing the impact of the siding
Right, you balance
benefit to our client with the impact on that window. If that's okay.
Right, yes.
Okay. Then did you want to go there? There's other items on the list, but did you want to go to the trees, Caesar? The tree removal?
Let's do that. We're done with the garage. Anybody? Kevin, you have anything?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, we're done with the garage, everybody? Moving on. Tree,
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, okay, so the trees, the two trees that we're talking about are these guys here, these two here, and they are leaning. They're the pear trees that are typical in the village, and they have sort of a weak joint where they come out, and they are leaning all the way. They're basically resting on the roof of the existing house in order to renovate it or repair it or even maintain it. Those limbs have to come off. Typically, you would have the right to cut all the limbs that are overhanging your property line. In the tree code in Irvington, it says you're not allowed to modify a street tree if it affects the health of the tree. So we had our arborist look at these trees and say, is there some way that these trees can be pruned? Or the village can prune these trees back from our property line so that we can make use of our property. The arborist thought that the trees are at the end of their useful life. They've been cut in that, there's a power line going right through the center of them. So they've been cut into that, what is it called? Bozo, like a Bozo the Clown thing where the wires go down the center and the crown is broken into two parts. So, and they're very mature and leggy in terms of their upper crown. So his opinion was that it would be better to replace them and not put trees back in this location underneath those power lines. It's not the appropriate place for them. And he felt that his first reaction was this is the responsibility of the village to get those trees out of that dangerous condition if they're trees. So we just want to know what to do next. I did forward information on the trees and the arborist's recommendations to the tree committee and asked for comment. They haven't gotten back to us yet. I'm not sure what the next step would be on that, but we're happy to leave them in place as long as the branches can be cut back so that they can move forward with their project. What to do after that, we're leaving in the hands of the village in terms of what they want done to the trees and whether it's appropriate to just prune them. The two options that I sort of laid out for the tree commission, I said, like, let us know, do you want us to, do our pruning and then you can see what happens to the trees and you could assess later, or do you want to recommend to the village that they come down? And, that either way, we would be happy with either approach.
Ed, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought
I'll answer that,
we had comment. What's that?
Yeah, I'll answer it. John, if you damage the tree, you have to replace the tree. So we have concerns, and the village shouldn't have to absorb the expense for the damage done to the tree by what you call allowable maintenance. So You'll have to work with the tree commission since it's a village tree, not a planning board tree, not a site tree.
Ed,
Yeah.
Mark Gilliam has just left a note saying that the tree commission has replied last week. Not sure why John did not see the reply. So this
Okay.
seems to
Because he
be a
wasn't
tree
copied
commission.
on it.
So John, get back to us when you work it out with the tree commission, but the village shouldn't have to absorb any expense for this project to go forward because the tree, in your eyes, interferes with the property. Any damage you do to it is your responsibility.
Yeah,
So whoever we
I
need to
think
talk to
what-
about, I'm sorry, go ahead, Caesar. I'm sorry.
but when you talk to the tree committee, if they agree to that you remove the tree, you would pay for that, and they would be responsible for any sidewalk damage and the approval of the tree commission of replacement plan
I
would
think,
also be needed.
I
what type of
think
tree?
we can talk to them about it, but it's not clear to me why the maintenance of an existing street tree would be the owner's responsibility.
I'm not saying maintenance. I'm saying if you prune it and damage it, you have responsibilities.
Oh, I understand that, but if it's a tree that needs, in the estimation of an arborist, if it needs to be pruned, and right, okay. I mean, we'll work with the tree commission. I understand that if we went and prune this without anyone's direction on pruning it and we damaged it, it would be our responsibility. It would be effectively we've killed a village property.
Yeah, actually, the simple answer is we're not partners with this project. Okay, the village shouldn't have to absorb costs for this project to move forward.
Right, but I'll talk to the tree commission about it. I understand.
Thank
I
you.
understand that, but it's not right. I got it.
Thank you.
Is there any other items that there's a few other notes that would be helpful since we have Doug here for us to review.
You can do them offline tomorrow, John.
Okay, and then the thing that I would like to request is that we be referred to the ARB to confirm that the demolition that we're proposing on the house on phase 1 is acceptable with them.
We'll wait till the garage is resolved.
Well, in response to that, guys, the garage is not related to the demolition that's being proposed right there.
You're altering the elevation by adding the garage. We'll wait.
What was that, Ed?
You're adding, moving, or relocating the garage. That's demolition.
Right, but if the ARB says that the garage
You can
should
go to
not
the
be
ZBA if
demoed-
you don't like my interpretation.
Okay, but all
You
right.
can go to the ZBA if you don't like my interpretation.
Okay, but my concern, just in terms of, from the owner's perspective, if the ARB has input into what portion of the house needs to be protected and can't be demoed.
Yeah, but John, you're not going to work one board against the other. Until the planning board is satisfied that the project is feasible, I find it hard to believe that you're going to have them refer you to the ARB.
My position would be that if the ARB.
I understand your
is supposed to be in the
position. You're welcome to bring it to the ZBA if you don't like my interpretation.
Okay, is the
That's
board
the
have a
answer
position
I'm giving you, and that's the answer you're getting.
on- Okay. All
I
right,
agree with
just-
Ed.
Okay. All right, so then if we're not going to be referred to there, then you're saying that we should come back with the garage relocated? The other thing was the phasing on the stormwater
You
system.
could address that later, Don, too. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so that's it.
And you got to come back with a tree plan.
What do you mean a tree plan?
Resolution of the tree.
Resolution
Okay.
of the tree that's approved by the tree commission.
Okay.
Thank you.
We done?
We're done,
Anybody have
Sarah.
any questions? Anybody from the public that's listening, now is the time to tune in. Any board members have any other further to say?
Nope.
Okay,
No, thank you.
We're done with comment.
Okay, thank you, guys. What do I do, Sarah? Do I just,
I'm gonna put you back as an attendee.
Okay, if I leave the meeting, I'm not hurting anything, am I? No.
No.
Okay, all right, bye, thank you, guys.
Bye, Jean.
Thank you.
Okay, leaving 2012 and going to 2019-26, 47 Main. Is anybody here for 47 Main, the Chase Bank?
Yes.
Going once?
Yep, he's here. Well,
Okay.
I'm in.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I think you have to, my architect is also here. This is Sammy Salem with Kim Properties. How's everybody doing?
Hello there.
Identify yourself, please.
Sammy Salem with Kim Properties.
Sammy, I don't see him as an attendee.
John Sullivan?
He's
Them
Oh,
just-
okay. Sarah, he's
an attendee. He's a panelist.
okay, so he can talk.
You can talk.
Yes, please.
Oh, there he is.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Nice of you to welcome me into your home. Welcome to mine.
Thank you.
John Sullivan
Go ahead.
from Gillespie & Associates. You hear me?
Yeah, take it away.
Okay, can I share my screen? Okay. So this was last in front of the board last December, and after that meeting, we came to the conclusion that it made sense to retain the existing curb cut and locate the parking spaces in this configuration. Since that time, we went through some of the comments. There was a sort of percolation test that was done sometime in January. And so we came up with a study using infiltrators. Infiltrators are represented right here. We also have located 2 refuse enclosures. One is adjacent to the entrance here, and there's one in the back of the most western point, which is behind 45 Main Street. So the refuse enclosure closer to the property line along North Dutcher would service the residential tenants for 47 Main. I think we had some details on that were submitted. We went through the landscape comments and provided some new plantings. There was an extensive sort of list of comments that came through around the 1st of April. So we'll go through those.
Now, wait, I'm sorry. This plan, was this submitted to us?
Yeah, we
Or-
have this.
No, well, there was no new submission, I believe, this month.
This was
This
submitted
is
for last
dated
month and not
March
heard,
20
Mary Ann.
What?
This was submitted last month and not heard.
That's
We
right.
made comments on it.
Oh,
Last,
last time? Okay,
so he's
sorry.
making the presentation on the changes this time.
Okay,
Is this
sorry.
the March 18th submittal?
Okay,
Correct. Yes.
sorry. I,
Someone say correct, this is the March
Yes,
18th?
it's correct. Correct.
yes.
All right, you mentioned the garbage. I wasn't clear in your description where it is. You got your cursor. Could you show me where the garbage bin is?
There's 2 locations. One is right close to the entrance, is right here. I'll zoom in a little bit more. Here's one. This would be one location, and the second one would be back here. The purpose of this one would be to service the existing flower shop at 45 Main Street, and possibly shared with the bank. This location was for the residential component at 47.
Is that going to be enclosed with a fence of some sort, or is this going to be a dumpster sitting there?
No, it'll be closed, and we provided a detail on,
Just to the right, you had it.
The other way.
So this would be the side that would face I guess, the side street there, North Dutcher, and then this is the front, two large gates. We, conceal it with a nice cedar fence, and we realize that we have to, go in front of the ARB. So that was the next step, but we wanted to kind of
Okay,
propose the locations now.
right.
Some
Okay.
feedback on that. Also, it should be noted that in the last submittal, we had some AC condensers that we're now going to locate on the roof of the building, and we just recently did last week a submission to, actually this past Monday, to the Architectural Review Board.
Okay, when I was last out there, the well, the steps pit, the second one in, didn't have any railing. You have I can't see the plan here, so you got railings around those pits?
To my knowledge, they were there. I don't know if they were damaged, but.
The last time I was there was no railing.
Can
on the
you,
one
Sammy, any
further in.
knowledge on that?
I believe the one behind the Chase at 47 Main has a railing. And I think whoever was just speaking from the city may be correct that the one behind 45 Main Street doesn't have a rail. But if we need to put one in there, we will sure do it.
Well, you need to show it. This is Cesar Manfredi speaking. That was the guy that was speaking.
Oh, hey, Caesar. Yes, we will instruct John and his group to put a railing there. I believe you're correct that it's missing.
That was on our comments too. It was number 7.
Yes, so the
Hey, Doug, you had
railings do not,
engineering comments?
Yeah, that was in there. Number 7, we mentioned it. I believe you brought it up and we looked into it. I think it is missing one of the railings.
well, I interpreted the comment as that the railings weren't, they don't meet the current code. They don't have the spindle requirements, with.
I think it was just missing, but I'll double check.
Before they get into the engineering details with Doug, does anybody on the board have any comments about the way it looks, the garbage bin, the screening, the railings, anything going on with the rest of the board?
I think you just have to show what your limits are for this enclosure, especially the one that's closest to the street. I see the pad, but I don't see the fence that's being shown, the enclosure. Is it a rectangular, or is it following the profile of this pad?
No, it would be more rectangular, although it could follow the profile of the pad. That could be, I suppose that's an option. But the intent was that it would be rectangular as detailed,
Right, you have these two elevations, but you don't have it shown in plan. So I suggest that you put it in plan so that
I agree.
it's clear.
That's on our comments too. And one of the things on our comments, and Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but the fence that's existing is actually the neighbor's fence. And one of the things is that you would need to put up a fence on your property as well. I mean, it would seem weird with 2 fences, but because one would have to be maintained by you for screening for the neighbors.
I mean,
You want us to locate a fence right adjacent to the neighbor's fence?
you, just like the application before you, you have to provide screening that you maintain. And unfortunately, the answer is yes. And the other answer is we can get you in contact with the other owner. I'm sure he'd be amenable to taking his down if he put something else up.
Okay.
Yes, please send us his contact information. It would seem silly to have 2 fences. Can I?
But you understand that you're responsible for screening because you're putting the parking lot against a residential district behind you.
Correct. I understood. I thought at the last meeting, and obviously I'm wrong, I thought we were just had to protect from the vehicles from hitting the fence, such as putting like a curb stop or a bollard. I wasn't under the impression that we had to install
That's
a
fine.
new fence. But if that's what the code is and that's what the board wants, then I think it would make sense to contact the other owner and work out something with
All right.
with them.
Just understand it has to be on your property so that you're responsible for maintenance of it.
Yes, sir.
Since you're creating the parking.
I hope
Anything else?
that's not me.
Yeah,
As a general question, I noticed this has come up, that the line weights on the drawings are not bold enough, and I'm kind of confused as to that. Is this, the board?
It's difficult to see, very difficult to see what your proposed improvements are. I mean, like your grading, I see a 93. Are the grades actually changing? It looks the same.
This entire gray area is the proposed parking.
I mean, it should really be, I
Proposed
mean,
pad.
it'd be easier to see one site plan that shows existing conditions and then what's being removed,
That the existing
highlighted.
site plan, Doug, is over here.
Yeah, but okay, what's being removed?
That's.
I mean, the broken stone pad is still showing
My
the
question
same.
was about the line weight on the drawing.
Yeah,
Understand this drawing, how is it not read well?
We can take this
Okay.
offline. Let's move it along. We can take this offline. You can give them a call tomorrow. Any other questions?
Did we get any comments from Suzanne? I didn't read the thing, on the plantings around that garbage by the road?
She didn't have any
We
comments.
didn't have any comments.
Do we have a definition of what that planting is that you have around the fence, stuff where the garbage bin is?
I saw a list somewhere.
Yeah, those are boxwoods, but there's also a couple other plantings. I did notice the landscape architect's comments, and I will address those with the next submission. I think comments.
Okay, great.
And
Yeah, be specific about what that planting is around the proposed garbage area.
okay, we did. There's a landscape key
Yeah,
that references those, but we're going to make some changes as the architect.
okay.
Okay. Any comments from the public, if there's a public listening? Any other comments from the board?
No.
no,
We done? We're moving along. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Be safe.
Sammy, can either
Yes,
you
sir.
or your architect give me a call in the morning after like 9?
Yes, sir. I'll
Just to
call.
go over your ARB application. Sorry, I got you here. I figured I'd do it.
No, it's fine. I'll call you tomorrow after 9:30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Okay, the next on the list is 2 Heritage Hill Road, 2020-06. We have the applicant online.
Patty, you have to unmute yourself.
Patty, you look younger.
And
Yeah.
Abdul, you have to unmute yourself too.
Yeah. So you can hear me now.
Yeah.
yes.
And can I put something up on the board?
Yes, please.
Are you guys able to see it?
No. Yeah.
All I can see
Did
is you with
hit
a
share
hat.
screen on the bottom?
You have to do share screen.
Okay, let me go back to that. I see. Yep, I'm sorry. And desktop. Okay, let's go to my machine. Yeah, I'm hitting desktop. Is it doing it?
Okay.
Yep. Did it do it? No, it
Yeah.
doesn't look like.
yes.
Okay.
Here.
So we have Doug's comments. I think it's going to be easier just to kind of hit them as we go through a couple of slides. Most of them, the first four, I'm going to deal with. Some of the others, the engineer can deal with that. Let me get to something that actually shows something that we need to deal with. So this is the site plan.
About that wall, and we might as well get to it right now. We disagree with your dissertation on the wetland. The work in that wall is within the buffer zone of the wetland.
The house,
You can see the water from there. You can see the pond from here.
right. The pond's right down here. And we-
So you went into a lengthy dissertation about it not being a wetland controlled area. And we totally disagree.
I may have not represented what I was trying to say very well. But I think it's a wonderful facility, whatever it's called. The only thing I was trying to do is make sure that I wasn't misrepresenting it as one thing when somebody else had said it was different. And obviously, I have no problem that this is, we'll correct our statements. We'll say this is a wetland. And, we've removed all grading on this side of the house. We're not building, we're building an addition on the side of the house. But I think we've agreed that we're not going to disturb anything from the elevation of 400 down, which is basically, the middle of that wall. So with the exception of the repair of this wall and the idea that we're going to take out the utility poles and put the wire underground, only a small portion of that is, on the downslope going towards the pool, up to the pond. And we've actually got notes from Kahili, who's the arborist, about using an air spade so that we're revealing the roots and then carefully trimming the roots instead of hacking them with a shovel or something like that. And any work that's done on this side of the house, beyond the proposed addition, nothing over there, whether it's landscaping or fixing walls, none of it involves any equipment. That would all be.
It's interesting. We're not going to say it's a mapped wetland. So, obviously, Marianne, he needs a permit to do the work, wetland permit.
Yeah, he put in the application for a wetland permit.
Okay.
Yeah, even though he said it wasn't really a wetland, he put in an application. For it's not covered.
Yeah, I'll change the
water
wording in there so I support what everything is. That's fine.
What about water course permit?
No.
No, we talked about that at the meeting. It didn't because it's not affecting the water into or out of a water course.
Right. In addition to getting back to the wall, the height of the wall, in addition to an elevation to show how it's not the height is not going to change. How about some verbiage that the height will not change, that the existing height of
Sorry,
of
Caesar.
that wall will not change.
I thought it did change just slightly, didn't it, Patty? Didn't it?
No, the top of the wall is at 402 right now, and we're proposing keeping it at 402. The bottom of the wall right now is at 399, and we're proposing that remains as it is.
Okay, but the top of the wall, at least it shifts over a little bit to leave a platform, people coming down the stairs, right?
What it is right now that section of stone wall, because it's fallen over, is about 3.5, 4 feet wide.
Okay.
So what we're proposing to do, if you look right over here, this section, if you can see that with a cursor, if I bring that straight along here, what it does is it consolidates the rocks in so it looks the same as this. And what I get is about a foot of this grass right here. So that when people come off that stair, they're able to walk around the house without feeling cramped. We're not moving the bottom of the wall at all.
What are you doing with those rocks?
We're putting the rocks to make the wall.
Those big rocks that are on the grass right now?
That's either glacial errata or really, really interesting ledge.
If you tell me it's glacial erratic, we have another meeting. We have to have another review. Are they glacial erratic, or are they rocks?
No, it's rocks.
That's what I thought.
The thing that we're proposing to do with those.
Why don't you put that note on the plan there?
Sure.
George, you have any thoughts on the wall?
Well, I'm going back to, and I hate to say it this way, but I'm going to say it, is that Patty has been to our board several times and has presented things like such, and has said he's going to have this done by this way and that way. And then somehow, during the construction process, things change. And Patty has said that, that he's not the architect of this thing. And I remember from one previous submission that we actually asked for the architect to be here, and that the architect would be involved throughout the construction to ensure that the work that was approved is being done in the way it was mentioned. And so I'm going through this, and I'm hearing all these nice suggestions, I'll call them, and that everyone's asking for validation of this through records of drawings and such like that. I also think that we have to make sure that we make sure that what is actually built is what's on the plans. So I think that's another layer that has to be added to this so far.
So are you suggesting some sort of site supervision by somebody?
No, I think it's a standard thing that Patty does not, he's saying that he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to do this. But in effect, and Patty, correct me if I'm wrong, but that he has also said that, no, I am just a representative of this. The architect who he has signed and sealed these drawings is not making this presentation, in fact. So that is what, as we had with the person that was previously, that was the architect who was presenting this thing. So yeah, Patty isn't an architect.
I think
No,
what you're trying to say is.
So I just want to make sure that we get some kind of like standard architect who does, I'm not asking for anything extraordinary, that they are responsible for making sure that what is approved is what's actually done.
Yeah, George, I'm not going to tell you I think you're wrong. I understand what you're saying, and I understand, I think, why you're saying it. I'd actually like to have a meeting, if it's possible, with you and I and Ed off this at some point, because there might be some confusion about some of the things that I have done or have not done. There is an architect on this project. There's a civil engineer on this project. There is a landscape architect on the project. There's also a tree arborist on this project. My job is supposed to coordinate all of that. And when I say I'm going to do something, what I'm writing down is that we're going to add information. I'm going to tell Laura Wakefield, who's the architect, that we have to add information on her drawings that specifically state that that we provide an elevation of the wall, that the rocks that are in the back of the house are not going to be touched or affected. I'm not trying to suggest that my saying that is what's going to give anyone any assurances. I'm saying the drawings have to say that, and those are the drawings that are reviewed and sealed by the licensed architect.
Well, actually, and Patty, not to get into the semantics of it, is that you weren't actually saying that, and others were requesting that you put it on the drawings.
And I would agree that that would be done.
Yes, so I would say that we are in sync, that the drawings should accurately reflect the scope of work that is being required to be done, so that we can all understand it, and that follows through construction.
That makes sense.
I agree.
George, are we saying that obviously he's got to come back because there's got to be additions?
Absolutely.
That the next presentation should be by a licensed architect?
Well, no, the licensed architect is signing and sealing these drawings. So that architect's responsible for this work. That architect has allowed, I assume, Patty to present their work this way. Okay.
Yeah, and Laura can certainly be at the next meeting. That's not a problem either.
I'm not. It's about the paper and the building of it that matters.
Yep. Patty, I think it devils in the details. The more details you put on the plan, the less problems we'll have at the end. Choreo is better.
Okay,
except for the storm
We
damage
done-
on the driveway.
we done with the wall?
I think I understand what you want, and I'll relay that back so that the people who are doing that can do it.
I have a couple more things. I forgot to mention when we were doing trees. Tree number 24, there's a trench, a utility trench going by it. You have to provide tree protection on tree 24.
Right.
When you
We've
dig that-
actually got notes, which I'll get to in a minute, that have been added to this set that you've got. And it goes into detail of, it's all based on Wayne Kahele's recommendation.
Okay, moving right along. The planting area you have delineated, it's either at an acre or above an acre. And then the SWEP plan comes into play, the stormwater pollution prevention plan, in an over an acre according to DEC rules on stormwater. You have any comment on that?
Yeah, actually, if I can, that's like 2 sheets from now, so I think we can talk about it. When I get, you'll see that, and I do have a comment about it.
Can you go to that page first?
Okay.
No.
No, it's.
No.
I know that. Whoops. Okay.
That one.
Yeah.
That
so
one.
The original on this showed only the construction limits of disturbance. That's what that had been determined by Hudson Engineering. The comment that we got was that there was landscaping proposed over the next 10 years that was going to be outside of the limit of construction, as evidenced on the landscaping plan. So the question I guess I have is, if people are doing landscaping, not grading, not doing anything other than planting, does that trigger the the sweeps process, or is that something that is outside of that?
Is there a machine going into that area?
There could be a restriction that said no. I mean, I don't.
Well, here's the deal, Patty. If you're disturbing more than an acre, real simple,
Right.
you need a stormwater prevention program and inspections weekly till the whole project's done in 10 years.
Right.
You can't bifurcate it. So you've got to make a decision.
Yeah, well, if it were up to me right now, we would be limiting to our job, which is the what is within the
You
construction.
let us know. If you want to leave it like it is, you got to give us a SWIPS plan.
Yeah, I'll discuss that with the client. I don't know what their schedule is going to be on. I think this thing with the landscaping has gotten kind of a life of its own. And the client has already indicated that they're going to be doing this over a long period of time. And I think that I think it was a mistake for them to try and integrate that as the landscaping that's necessary for building this small addition on the house. I'd like to actually have it be that we have a plan that is that landscaping, and then if they want to do other things in the future, if it's something that necessitates a permit, then they would handle it at that point.
Your choice.
Patty, can you call me and just go over that tomorrow too? Go
Sure.
over the extent of that.
Yep. Okay, then, so you understand the 2 limits? That makes some sense. Not that it makes sense like it's okay, but you understand.
Yes.
Okay. Let me just go back to this. These are our, comparing existing to proposed. I think, Doug, I got the basement portion of this correct? At this point, I know you had questions.
Yeah,
about it.
no, I think it was, you included the entire basement, so I don't
Right.
think, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so that's cool. The reason I went to this page is this is one of the key things. We are exceeding the permitted site coverage. The proposed is 6,076 square feet. We're permitted 5,764 because we're an oversized lot. So we have to work with the 1F80 restrictions.
Patty, real quick, sorry, I got 5,521 for allowable. So just double check that.
21?
Yeah,
Are you
double
using
check it.
20,000 square feet?
It's the site set is 86,000.
Oh, 73.
Something small.
Okay, well, just double check it.
Okay, I think the
You can work
question.
that offline.
Yeah, good. So it's somewhere around between 300 and 500 square feet, exceeding it. So we need a variance for that. I do want to note that there's existing on the site 834 square feet of retaining walls. I shouldn't say retaining walls, stone walls. So, you know, I don't know if there makes sense to get rid of some of the stone walls to reduce that. There's some stone walls up in the back that don't really do much. They're not in a logical location for the property line. But I think we do need to go to the zoning board, and we, of course, would like to see if we could do that between now and the next meeting.
No. Did you hear my no?
Do you want me to answer? No.
Patty, Patty, until we resolve some of the open issues, there may be more denials coming your way.
That's ominous.
Just want to make sure you
Okay.
understand.
Okay.
So let's move it along as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Coverage, work it out with Doug tomorrow so that we understand where we're going with that.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Just while I'm on this page, since you didn't have the note, I think we gave you what you needed with the light stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you say the light stuff, you mean the
The
lighting?
Exterior lighting.
the light fixture and its pattern, and it's not disturbing night skies.
Right.
Okay.
I wasn't there,
then-
as long as you're looking at that, was there a height issue that got resolved, Ed?
It's resolved.
There's a section of the wall if you go back. If you go back, there was that section of
Yeah,
the
I'm
wall.
trying to make it go. It jumps. Yeah. So right here, Caesar, there you can see. Actually, I'll point to it. This is the wall that we're dealing with, and what I can do. I mean, it's got some notes on there that are, saying what's happening. What I'll do is I'll provide an elevation of that and some specific notes that address the restoration of that section of wall. And I'll
Yeah.
make sure that the limits getting, that it can't be any higher. It's going to use the existing base, and it will be the same length as what's there now.
Let's use some reinforced silt fence there too. See, and define how far off the wall that fence is.
Yeah, that's a pretty steep hill. You may have to go with a double silt.
Or the reinforced.
Okay, is the engineer on?
I'm here.
Okay, great. So that would be something you'd be adding for your site protection?
Not a problem.
Great.
As long as we're on the silt fence, hey, Doug, is there an overall erosion control plan for this,
Yes.
the whole site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is where I just got to. This is the engineer's work. I don't know if you have any questions on it, but, the engineer's on the line if you do. Any questions about any of this stuff? Other than the reinforced silt fence below that?
That one might, can you go to the detail real quick, just to double?
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought that was reinforced one, but okay.
No.
No, that's just the construction fence.
Reinforced, or does double row of silt fence work?
I would prefer the reinforced because of the pressure that's going to be put on the slope with the dirt and the excavator.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just that one section, though. I don't want to spend money all over the place.
Right.
Okay, you got it.
You're talking about the excavator for the foundation, not for the stone wall, right?
Oh, I believe it's all going to be one big mess when you get done.
The wall's going to be hand done. That's not going to be equipment.
Yeah, but when they drive the equipment over to the wall to dig the foundation, stock the pile of dirt all against the wall and over the wall, and then they
Okay.
drive all those machines over all those routes that they say they're not gonna, and then come by at the end of the project and say, look at all these trees that died suddenly. I want to.
I understand your concern, and we'll make sure. I'll ask Hudson Engineering to make sure that they've got the walls, the fence is exactly where you want them to be. Which are, we don't.
I want to detail so that there's no question later on when we get in the field.
Makes sense.
Patty, getting back to the wall, you had mentioned the elevation of the existing base and the elevation of the existing height. Could you add that to the notes that you're not
Yes.
changing those elevations?
Exactly. I'll put a note that what the grade is, what the existing grade is now, and that it has to match that existing grade. It's very easy to see because the rest of the wall's going to stay. So it's, you know, either if it comes across at the same height, it's at the same height.
Patty, that's what we asked for spot elevations. That was the
Yeah.
wall we were referring to, not necessarily those other walls that were off in the distance from there.
Okay, but and that's what I interpreted that too. That I think that what you really want is that statement on the drawings that says this existing elevation is 402, and it will be 402 when it's finished. The existing base is 399 now, and it will be 399 when it's finished.
If what you said is right on the plan, that would be nice.
Yeah, it will be. I'm sure that the licensed architect wants that on there. Okay, so this, we looked at that, we looked at this. I mean, just Caesar, Hudson's done a pretty complete stormwater management plan and drainage analysis for this, so I think they're doing a good job of a lot of the things that you've expressed concern about. So hopefully that's good. And then I did have some stuff. I mean, this in support of the village's position on it, which I've already said I support and have no problem with. The wetland shows up on this drawing. I think this is the village's drawing, or maybe this is the county's drawing.
Yeah, we don't care about the county. Our law references Linda Miller's report.
Right, but Linda Miller's report kind of does an interesting tap dance about this thing.
It still identifies it, Patty, so it's a wetland.
A map is a map.
It's a mapped
A map
wetland.
is a map.
I'll accept that.
Unless you want to do a study and tell us it's not or something other than what she says it is.
No.
We're welcome to receive and review.
Of course not, Ed.
And it's a mapped wetland according to Linda Miller's map.
I accept
and
that.
I think the approach you've taken of staying away from it is good. But if you want to redefine it, go ahead. We're fine.
No, I think you've.
No, we're happy to get the paperwork.
I'm very happy to accept the what Doug's notes have said, and we'll make sure that gets revised accordingly, and support that that's what it is.
I think what Doug said, look at Suzanne Nolan had quite a long
She did.
passage on it.
Yeah. Well, if I'm interpreting correctly what she was saying, she was really taking exception with what it really comes down to is I read Linda Miller's thing as saying that she referred to it as being
Patty,
limited.
When it's on the map, it's mapped wetland, no argument.
I'm not arguing.
Let's finish with the wetland.
I thought we had this discussion already, Caesar.
I know, we're finished.
Good.
It's a wetland.
Hey, what's next?
Anything else, Patty?
Only that I just wanted to show that we did have the 100-foot setback, and we have and we proposed that 25-foot no disturbance, which I think helps with all of that. So the only other thing was, these are those additional notes for tree protection, which are on the drawings, and they're very involved. They go into detail, particularly with the excavation for the underground electric line. You were asking about that in vicinity of some of those trees. So they're going to do that.
Specifically tree 24.
Right. And then that tree that's in the picture on the left, that's the tree that we're proposing taking down. It's been topped. It's got a big split in it, and it's it's close to the house. So I can understand that. I don't see any need, unless somebody has questions about it, to go to any of the information that's on these 3 sheets of the landscaping plan.
They're removed, right, from the application.
Well, that's what I'm going to suggest. These were submitted for the, I guess, for the April meeting.
Right.
I haven't had conversations with them since, but I think what you just said is the right way to handle it.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay, any comments from the board?
No.
Any public hanging on here? Okay, that's about it. Thank you, Patty. See you next time. Well, I probably won't see you. We'll be back on the Zoom.
Yeah, was the reason that you couldn't see my face, is that me talking, was that on my end or was that on your end?
It's on your end. You have to click video like you did for the audio.
Oh, okay.
We've got that young snappy picture of you look all night.
Thank you, guys. Doug, I'll give you a call tomorrow and figure some of this stuff out.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you much.
We have a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
So move. Second.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good job, Caesar.
Good night, Ed, everybody. Good night.